Hello and welcome to another of my vlogs. Today you'll see that there's light cloud behind me. It's about 16 degrees at the moment, forecast to go up to 21, and the wind is fairly light at about 10 kilometers an hour from the southeast. Like most of us that ride from home, you'll probably have one or two favourite routes. I have one that I call my go-to route, and we're going to ride that today. It's all on roads that we've ridden before, but I use it as a training route, and depending on what I want to train on, I can use certain parts of it. As you can see from this screenshot of Ride with GPS, the majority of the ascent is in the first half of the ride, and then it's flatter towards the end. You can use these hills and the flats in different ways, and we'll talk a bit more about them as we go around. But today, what I'd like you to do is to think about your go-to ride and how you use it and how you might think about changing it to help you with your training. I'm going to use this route and ride it as a recovery ride. That's to say, I am not going to be putting pressure on my legs. I'll use all the gears that I've got in order just to keep it nice and easy today. And that's because I've already done approximately 250k this week, and it's time just to ease the legs out and not put them under any more pressure. I'm approximately 6 kilometers into the ride, and you'll have seen from the introduction that I have done approximately 3 kilometers within my estate, just to warm me up and to check that the bike's okay. This route today is approximately 70 kilometers long and has just over 400 meters of climbing. This is me from the future, or to be precise, near the end of the ride. I think it's worthwhile just saying a few things before we go any further in this ride. First of all, what I am about to show you in the vlog is my personal experiences of how I've developed my go-to ride to allow me to use it for training purposes. I'll also explain how I apply various principles to help me get more power in my legs and to increase my cadence and hence my speed on the flat. I'm not a trained coach. These are just things that I have found have been useful. However, you may disagree with them. If you do, please comment below. Without any more ado, we'll get back on the route. The road along to the Golden Gates is a gentle ascent. No more than 1 or 2%, but it just gets your legs going, and you've got to make sure, if you're doing a recovery ride, not to push too hard. You shouldn't be getting out of breath, and you shouldn't feel your legs being tight. We're at the end of Wynyard Road now, and just about to cross the A177 and pop into Thorpe Hughes to do our first major climb up to Carlton. There are a few things that you should note on the steepest part of the climb: what gear you're in and an estimate of average speed you're achieving. Now, because this is a recovery ride, I'm in middle chainring today because I'm on the DAW Super Galaxy in about the third bottom cog at the back. Just taking it nice and easy, keep the breathing calm, make sure there's no pressure on the legs. I've come up there doing about 12 kilometers an hour. Now, that gearing is pretty typical for me coming up the hill in recovery mode. You might like to do the ride 2 or 3 times to get a better feel for it. I now need to think about how I might structure training around that hill. There are 4 ways that you can come up a hill. One is in the recovery mode, like I've just done, just taking it really easy. The second is to go all out and do it as fast as possible in whatever gear you can manage. And that's okay if you want to do that for training. But there are 2 other modes that you can use. The first is power training, in which case you increase your gears. So you go to a higher gear, say 1 higher, and then try to power up the hill at the same average speed. Over time you might be able to put this up to 2 gears higher, but you'll probably find that your average speed slowly creeps up and what you were using as your power gearing becomes your normal gearing, and you'll step up 1 gear at a time. The alternative is to drop a gear and to spin up at a higher cadence. Running the higher cadence will ultimately help you when you are on the flat, when you will be using higher gears and a higher cadence, which will give you an overall higher speed. The importance when doing cadence work is to keep it as smooth as possible, all the way up the hill. Now, there are several more hills as we go around, and it's worth taking a note of your gearing and average speed there, because you may want to do different things on different hills, depending on wind direction or how strong you feel after you've done the first few kilometres of your ride. It does take a little bit of effort to identify your baseline and where you will challenge that as you go round. The important thing to me is that you think about this before leaving the house and decide what efforts you're going to do and where. We've just passed through the village of Carrollton. Now we're at Red Marshall Crossroads and turning right for Stillington. On the way to Stillington, we first have a descent. And in reality, there's only 2 ways you can do this. The first is to freewheel, which is my option because I'm on a recovery ride. Or you can up your gears and power down here. The choice, of course, would be up to you and what you might be wanting to get out of your training ride. And we're back into an ascent, first to Whitton and then up to Stillington itself. Descending again through Stillington, you have the choice of either powering or just freewheeling. Just remember what your aim for this ride was and don't change away from that, as otherwise you won't get the benefit of all your training. There's a shorter, steeper section as we go into Old Stillington, but just remember what you set out to do and just accomplish that. It'll all pay off in the end, and just be aware you can get hold-ups here. As you can see, someone's transferring horses from one field to another, so everyone's slowed up just to make sure there's no accidents. And now we can get away again. This is the little climb up to Bishopton High Crossroads. Choose your gear, whatever you need for fastest. 1 up for power, 1 down for cadence, or 1 that just makes it nice and easy. And stick in that all the way to the crossroads. Don't change your mind, just keep with it. Now we're turning right in the direction of Sedgefield, but we'll only be going up to Bog Hall and then turning back again towards Great Stainton. I'm sure that you do have a go-to ride that you could quite easily modify to put in hills or flat bits, descents, whichever you require. Also should say that I'm not a qualified coach, but what I'm telling you is what I've found to be very useful for me in order to improve my fitness, my speed and my ability to climb. I'm not quite so good on descents, but that's something I'm still working on. We're now going to go on and climb up towards Bog Hall. This starts with a fairly sharp lift out of a dip and then becomes fairly constant up towards Bog Hall. You'll have chosen your tactics for this sort of hill. I've reached Bog Hall now and I'm just about to turn and go south again. I mentioned earlier that the wind is from the southeast and we've generally been going northwest, so we've had the wind behind us. We're now going to tackle Elstop Hill in a southerly direction, and so we need to think about is our plan still right for the wind direction and speed. It may be that it's very strong today and you want to just use your normal gear for power training. It may be that if you're going to do cadence work, you're going to have to go down 2 gears rather than 1. If you remember from previous vlogs, Elstob Hill is in 2 sections. There's a short, steeper bit to begin with, and then it becomes almost constant gradient. You might even want to use different tactics on the 2 parts of the hill. Maybe power the bottom part and do cadence work on the top part. So we're coming into the bottom section of Elstob Hill, and for me today that means drop a gear, take it nice and easy on the legs, and get ourselves up to the constant climb. Now, one thing I should say is, if you are doing power work, don't force yourself all the way up the hill if your legs are really hurting, because you could strain something and be off the bike for a while. Change down if you need to, but try and remember exactly where it was you changed. And the next time you come to do power work on the hill, try and get further up the hill until you can get to the top in that higher gear. 2 important points when you're climbing any hill under power or cadence training. 1, stay seated. Standing up will avoid your training as you're using different muscles than normal. And 2, try and keep a constant speed on the hill. Don't try and do 20 kilometers an hour and then have to drop it back to about 12. Try and keep it somewhere in the middle. I've just popped off the route and into Great Stainton at the moment. We've completed the majority of the ascent in this ride. I hope that you're finding it interesting. It's certainly something that's helped me improve on my climbing ability. We're now going to leave Great Stainton and we've got quite a long descent now, followed by a flat ride out to Great Burden. On the flat, there's 2 ways to reduce your speed. One is to have a high gear and use power to get the speed up. The alternative is to use a slightly lower gear and use cadence, which doesn't put so much pressure onto your leg muscles but can achieve the same result. If you have been doing power work on the hills, I'd suggest cadence work on the flat or vice versa. Or you might mix both on the hills and both on the flat. But it's certainly important to do cadence and power work, as there are 2 different types of fibres within your muscle. These are fast twitch and slow twitch, both of which need to be exercised to improve your overall fitness on the bike. We're arriving at the outskirts of Great Burden, where I'm swapping out onto the cycle path up the side of the A66 for a ride up to Sadberg. We're just entering Sadberg, and at the village hall here on the left there's a cafe that's open Monday to Friday 9 till 1 o'clock. So if you fancy doing this route and you want a cafe stop, there's one there for you. And at the village green we turn right for Middleton St George. We're in Middleton St George, and if you missed the cafe at Sadberg or fancy going longer, this one here, 12 Central on the left, is another cycle friendly cafe. I'm going to carry on down to Middleton Wonrow, going left at this junction. I've stopped in Middleton Wonrow, quite close to the Davenport Hotel, to have a flapjack, as I've been out riding for almost 2 hours. It's time, I think, we talked about a couple of misconceptions that people have about training and how it works. There are many people who will say the only way to train is to go out on your bike and ride hard all the time. Well, yes, that does get your muscles working, but it's important that you give them time to recover. Essentially, when you're exercising, you're putting micro tears into your muscles, and it's when these recover and heal that your muscles become stronger. So if you're going out regularly, ensure that you put in some recovery rides and have some rest days. In my case, I've been out every day this week, but this is a recovery ride today, and with rain forecast for the next 4 or 5 days, I'll certainly get my rest days in that period. You may think that professional riders just ride hard every day, but I've read a few books about that, and in fact most of the professional riders ride 70% or more of their rides at recovery pace. They have specific training exercises to do, whether that's indoors or outdoors, but many of their rides are at recovery pace where their legs are not being put to maximum stress. The second thing that is problematic is attempting to use average speed as your measure of fitness. There are so many things out of your control that affect your average speed that this can vary significantly day on day. For example, if one day you've got the wind behind you on the majority of your ride, and the next time you go out it's in front of you, that will affect your ride. Traffic density will also affect it, especially if, like today, you come up against some horses being walked from one field to another. So don't be tempted to just rely on average speed. We've done about 40k of our ride, and I'll soon be starting off again. But having sat here for a few minutes, it's a good idea to take it easy for a little while to get your legs going again. So I'd suggest that you do cadence work. Just as we come to the end of the main street in Middle Monroe, we turn left here to make our way to Oak Tree, and you're suddenly into a little bit of a hill with a second little lift to take us to the end of the Teesside International Airport runway. Here's a tip for you. If you're doing a recovery ride, change your Garmin GPS unit, whichever one you've got, to a page which doesn't show your speed. Do everything just by feel. It should be easy on your legs, not hard. Use the gears and just keep going at an easy pace. We're travelling through Oak Tree as we've done on a few of the vlogs, but today when we reach the roundabout with the A67, we won't be going straight on and up the airport road. We'll be turning right onto the A67. I included the A67 in this route as everybody should be able to cycle in traffic, and the road's quite wide enough that they can give you a good clearance when passing. However, if you're on an all-out effort, then this road encourages you to go fast. As you come along the road here, the end of the Teesside International Airport runway is just off to the right, so it's worth looking left and right, as you might see some planes coming in. If you look ahead, it looks like a trainer's coming in to do bumps on the runway at the present time. So they'll just touch down on the runway and then accelerate off again and do another lap. We're just coming to the outskirts of Eagles Cliff now. Early Nook is off to the left here at the roundabout. But we are carrying on. When we get to Tesco's roundabout, we'll turn right. This is one of the things that can decimate your average speed. But if you're going to pass traffic, always pass it on the outside. Never go up the inside. So up we are into Yarm Road. We're coming up to the right turn off Yarm Road into Concord Way. Up ahead at the roundabout there's 3 lanes. The middle one goes straight on and turns right, and I'd suggest that that's the one you use here and stay in that lane all the way around, because last fatal cyclist collision here happened when the cyclist was in the right hand lane and the motorist decided to come round in the middle lane, and the collision occurred just as they came into Concord Way. I'm now on Bosefield Lane for our usual run back into Stockton, across St John's Crossing, Victoria Bridge, and then past the university to the barrage. We're towards the end of the ride now, only a few kilometres to go, riding along the North Shore, which is fairly quiet today considering it's lunchtime. Newport Bridge ahead, up the A19 cycle path as usual to get back to Billingham. And traffic levels on the A19 are back to normal. I've said this before in the vlog, I'm not suggesting everybody does my go-to route. What I am suggesting is that you look at your own go-to route and think about how you could use it on occasion to help you with training for power and speed on the bike. Hopefully you'll get some ideas from the vlog. If not, all I can say is I found these suggestions helpful. Yet again, I'll reiterate, I am not a trained coach, and these ideas and techniques that I've suggested have come from my own practical experience. Well, I'm almost at the end of the route now. Just got to climb up the hill from Billingham Bottoms, and then I'll do a cool down of about 3 kilometres within the estates. So I'll finish the vlog here, and I'll leave you with the climb up from Billingham Bottoms. I hope you've enjoyed the vlog. Thanks for watching. Until we meet again, bye for now, stay safe.